The Roloff family tree that we have analyzed, debated, and watched grow on television for nearly 2 decades is missing a massive branch. We have spent years arguing about Jeremy, Zach, Molly, and Jacob, about the farm, about the divorce, and about Caryn, but it turns out we were all looking in the wrong direction. Exclusive insider reports and leaked court documents slated for release in October 2025 are about to rewrite the entire history of Little People, Big World. A 45-year-old woman named Sarah Jenkins has stepped out of the shadows, and she isn't just claiming to be a distant relative. She is claiming to be Matt Roloff's firstborn daughter. And unlike the rumors of the past, she has the receipts, the DNA, and the certified documents to prove it. The wholesome image of the Roloff family was allegedly built on a foundation of science, and that science is finally breaking. Before we dive into the DNA evidence that is shaking the foundations of Roloff Farms, if you want to stay ahead of the most explosive reality TV updates and deep dive investigations, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to LPBW Update right now. We are the only channel digging this deep into the stories the network doesn't want you to hear. For over 25 seasons, the Roloff brand has been synonymous with overcoming adversity, family values, and the complex dynamics of raising a family on a farm in Oregon. We watched Matt and Amy raise 4 children. We watched them navigate health scares, dwarfism, and eventually a painful divorce. But what if the central conflict of Matt's life wasn't the farm or his health, but a secret he has been actively suppressing since the early 1980s? We are receiving reports that a civil suit is being prepared that identifies Sarah Jenkins, a nurse from a neighboring state, as the biological daughter of Matthew J. Roloff. This isn't a fan theory. This isn't a tabloid guess. The documentation attached to this filing allegedly includes a birth certificate from the early 80s explicitly listing Matt as the father, alongside a court-admissible DNA test confirming a 99.9% probability of paternity. To understand the magnitude of this, we have to go back to the time before the cameras, before Amy, and before the pumpkin patch became an empire. The timeline suggests that this relationship occurred prior to Matt meeting Amy, which technically means this wasn't an affair during the marriage. However, the scandal isn't about the conception, it is about the cover-up. The narrative being exposed suggests that for 40 years, Matt Roloff has known about Sarah. He allegedly knew he had a daughter, and rather than bringing her into the fold or acknowledging her existence, sources claim he engaged in a decades-long arrangement of off-the-books financial support to Sarah's mother to ensure their silence. This changes everything we know about Matt as a father figure. It suggests that while he was on camera preaching about legacy and the importance of family heritage, he was actively excluding his eldest child from that very legacy to protect his public image. Sarah Jenkins is described as the overlooked female protagonist of this saga. Unlike the fame-hungry individuals who often circle reality TV families, insiders say Sarah has zero interest in a TLC contract. She is a healthcare worker, a private citizen, and a woman who feels her mother was manipulated by a powerful figure. She isn't seeking a spin-off show. She is seeking justice and recognition. The catalyst for her coming forward now appears to be the finalization of the Roloff Farms estate planning and the way Matt handled the sale of the property. When Matt famously denied his sons, Jeremy and Zach, the opportunity to take over the farm, the public reason was always about money, negotiation, and Matt's control issues. But this new information recontextualizes that entire disaster. Did Matt refuse to hand the farm over to the twins because he knew that transferring the asset could trigger a legal claim from his secret firstborn? If he had passed the farm to Zach or Jeremy, it would have solidified the estate. By keeping it, selling portions to strangers, or keeping the assets liquid, Matt may have been trying to dodge a massive inheritance dispute that would have exposed Sarah's existence. The theory gaining traction among legal experts reviewing these leaks is that the farm dispute wasn't just about Matt being stubborn. It was about Matt being terrified. If Sarah proves paternity, she is entitled to a portion of the estate, specifically in Oregon, where inheritance laws can be strict regarding omitted children. If Matt had sold the farm to the boys for a family discount, Sarah could have sued for the difference in value, arguing that her father was dissipating the estate to avoid paying her fair share. Suddenly, Matt's chaotic decision-making, his refusal to compromise with his sons, and his pivot to short-term rentals makes a horrifying amount of sense. He wasn't just being a difficult businessman, he was trying to outrun a 40-year-old secret. But the evidence goes beyond just a birth certificate. The most heartbreaking aspect of this developing story involves Amy Roloff. For years, fans have sympathized with Amy for how the marriage ended, focusing on the emotional betrayal regarding Caryn Chandler. However, new reports indicate that Amy was the victim of a much deeper, longer-lasting deception. This is where the story takes a turn that feels like a scripted thriller, yet the sources are alarmingly credible. We are hearing that the smoking gun that corroborated Sarah's story didn't come from Sarah herself, but from inside the Roloff camp. It came from Chris Merrick. According to sources close to the production, Chris was helping Amy clear out an old storage unit, one of the many remnants of her decades with Matt, when he discovered a box of personal correspondence from the early years of Matt and Amy's marriage. These weren't just tax documents, they were personal letters between Amy and a close friend from back home. In one of these tear-stained letters, dated from the early years of their union, Amy allegedly wrote about a rumor of a baby from Matt's past. She wrote about confronting Matt and how he swore on his life it was a lie, gaslighting her into believing that the rumors of a child were malicious gossip designed to hurt their new marriage. When Chris found this letter, he reportedly realized the depth of the manipulation. He realized that Amy had suspected something from the very beginning, but Matt had successfully suppressed her intuition, making her doubt her own reality. The internal betrayal twist here is monumental. Chris Marek, who has always tried to be the peacemaker and bridge the gap between Matt and the rest of the family, reportedly couldn't stand by this time, realizing that Matt had lied to Amy not just at the end of their marriage, but at the very beginning. Chris allegedly made a copy of that letter. Through intermediaries, that letter was provided to Sarah Jenkins' legal team. This document is crucial because it proves that the silence wasn't accidental. It proves that Matt actively denied his daughter's existence to his wife, establishing a pattern of deceit that spans 4 decades. This letter destroys the potential defense Matt could have used. He cannot claim he didn't know or that he lost touch. The letter proves the issue was raised, discussed, and lied about. It transforms Sarah from a surprise discovery into a suppressed victim. For the viewers, this completely shatters the image of the early seasons of Little People, Big World. When we watch those early episodes now, seeing Matt organize the family, build the pirate ship, and talk about the future, we have to wonder, was he thinking about the daughter living just a state away? When he was strict with the boys, was he overcompensating for the child he wasn't raising? Every scene, every confessional, and every family prayer is now tainted by the knowledge that a member of the family was deliberately cut out of the picture. The legal ramifications are escalating faster than anyone anticipated. Initially, this began as a private approach from Sarah's lawyers to Matt's team, seeking a settlement and retroactive recognition. However, insiders suggest that Matt, consistent with his stubborn public persona, denied the claim outright. It is reported that during a preliminary deposition, Matt denied under oath that he had any children other than the 4 featured on the show. This was a fatal error. With the DNA test already secured and the birth certificate verified, Matt's denial under oath has reportedly triggered a referral to the district attorney. We are no longer looking at just a civil suit for money. We are looking at a criminal investigation into perjury. The narrative of the wholesome family was crucial to the show's success. TLC built an empire on the idea that the Roloffs were different. They were grounded, faithful, and honest. If this story is confirmed in court next month, it proves that the entire premise of the show was curated to hide a paternity scandal. It suggests that the producers may have even helped protect this image, or perhaps Matt was skilled enough to fool them too. But Sarah Jenkins isn't playing by the reality TV rules. She isn't waiting for a season finale to drop this news. She is going through the courts, which means the documents will become public record. Let's go deeper into the DNA evidence itself. The test results are described as definitive. In paternity cases, a 99.9% match is the gold standard. There is no wiggle room here, but the emotional DNA is even more complex. Sarah is 45. She has lived her entire life watching her father become a global superstar, watching him build a castle, watching him lavish vacations on his other children, all while she allegedly received the bare minimum to keep her quiet. The psychological toll of that is immeasurable. Reports describe Sarah as a woman of immense dignity who simply wants the truth to be known before her father passes away. She wants her own children, Matt's secret grandchildren, to know where they come from. This revelation also casts a new light on the tension between Matt and Amy during the divorce. Amy often alluded to Matt's controlling nature and his ability to spin narratives. At the time, we thought she was talking about farm business or his relationship with Caryn. Now, it appears she may have been sensing the weight of a lifetime of secrets. If Amy finds out now that her intuition in the 1980s was correct, that there was a baby and Matt lied to her face, it is unlikely she will ever be able to forgive him. It vindicates Amy in a way that nothing else could. It proves that her trust issues weren't unfounded. They were survival instincts. And what about the other Roloff children? Jeremy, Zach, Molly, and Jacob have grown up believing they were a quartet. They have their own internal squabbles, their own alliances. How does the introduction of a big sister and oldest sibling change their dynamic? Sources say the siblings are blindsided by the rumors. Zach, who has been the most vocal critic of his father's behavior regarding the farm, reportedly feels a sick sense of validation. If his father could turn his back on his firstborn for 40 years, then turning his back on Zach during the farm negotiation wasn't an anomaly. It was a character trait. It was business as usual for Matt Roloff. The timing of October 2025 is critical. This aligns with the rumored end of the current production cycle. There is speculation that TLC is scrambling. Do they film this? Do they ignore it? If the network knew and hid it, they are complicit. If they didn't know, they are about to have their biggest star exposed as a fraud. The production crews are allegedly on high alert, with confidentiality agreements being tightened, but leaks are springing everywhere. The image of Matt Roloff as the patriarch of the farm is crumbling brick by brick. We also need to talk about the financial implications of the foundational lie. Paternity fraud isn't just an emotional crime, it has economic consequences. If Sarah's mother was manipulated into a lowball settlement decades ago based on Matt's financial status at the time, that agreement could be voided if it's proven that Matt hid assets or lied about his future earning potential. But the more pressing issue is the inheritance. Matt's estate is worth millions. By law, in many jurisdictions, you cannot simply forget a child in your will. You have to explicitly disinherit them. If Matt's current will doesn't mention Sarah, She has a massive claim to a share of the entire Roloff fortune, the farm, the show money, the residuals, everything. This is why the farm sale to an outsider or the conversion to a short-term rental was so strategic. Liquid assets are harder to track and easier to hide than land. Matt may have been trying to liquidate his legacy to prevent Sarah from getting a piece of the land. As we peel back these layers, the figure of Matt Roloff transforms. He is no longer just the grumpy, ambitious farmer with big dreams. He becomes a figure of Machiavellian calculation, a man who could look into the camera and smile for millions of viewers while knowing that he had abandoned a child in the next state over. It recontextualizes every family meeting we ever saw on the show. When he preached about responsibility to Jeremy, was he projecting his own guilt? When he argued with Amy about money, was he worried about the secret payments he was making on the side? The role of Chris Marek in this cannot be overstated. Chris has been the steady rock for Amy. For him to take the step of leaking a private letter to Sarah's legal team is a declaration of war against Matt. It suggests that Chris sees Matt not just as a difficult ex-husband, but as a moral threat. Chris acts as the audience surrogate here. He found the evidence, he saw the lie, and he decided that the truth was more important than keeping the peace. This betrayal from within the inner circle is what makes this story so dangerous for Matt. He can't spin his way out of his own wife's letters. He can't negotiate his way out of a DNA test. The community around Hillsborough is buzzing. Locals have apparently heard whispers of this for years. The nurse in the next town who looks suspiciously like a Roloff. But small towns protect their own, and the Roloff machine was powerful. Now that the legal dam has broken, those whispers are turning into sworn affidavits. Witnesses are allegedly coming forward to confirm that they saw Matt meeting with a woman who wasn't Amy in the early years, confirming the timeline of the secret support payments. This is the beginning of the end of the Roloff myth. The branch that was cut off is grafting itself back onto the tree, and it is bringing the whole structure down. As we wait for the judge's ruling on the perjury motion and the public release of the DNA results, we are left with one burning question. Deeper than the money, deeper than the farm, how does a father live a double life for 40 years? And now that the lights are on, where will Matt Roloff hide? The referral to the district attorney was the spark that turned this situation from a family dispute into a full-blown media inferno. But what happened next inside the walls of the TLC network offices and within the private homes of the Roloff children is where the real story lies. We are now receiving exclusive reports detailing the absolute chaos that erupted the moment the perjury accusations against Matt Roloff became a matter of public record. While the lawyers were battling in court, the family was fracturing in real time, and a secret audio recording captured during a clandestine meeting between Matt and his newfound daughter Sarah had leaked, exposing the raw, unfiltered hostility of a man backed into a corner. Let's start with the reaction at the network. Sources inside Discovery and TLC describe the atmosphere as a total meltdown. For years, the executives have managed the Roloff controversies, the divorce, the feuds, the farm sale, by spinning them into plot points for the next season. But paternity, fraud, and perjury are not plot points. They are brand killers. We are hearing that an emergency war room meeting was called in late October 2025, where high-level executives debated whether to immediately cancel the show or to attempt a redemption arc documentary. The problem, according to insiders, is that the footage they have in the can for the upcoming season is now useless. They have months of footage of Matt playing the victim, talking about his legacy, and complaining about his sons not stepping up. Airing that footage now, knowing that he was actively hiding a secret daughter and lying to the courts, would make the network look complicit in his deceit. There are reports that legal counsel for the network has advised an immediate pause on all production to avoid being dragged into the criminal investigation regarding the concealment of assets. The show that defined a genre is reportedly on the brink of immediate cancellation, not because of ratings, but because the main character has become a liability that no amount of editing can fix. But the corporate panic pales in comparison to the emotional devastation rippling through the Roloff siblings. Zach, Jeremy, Molly, and Jacob have lived their entire lives under the banner of the Four. Their identity as a quartet was the core of their upbringing. Sources close to Zach and Tori indicate that Zach is experiencing a complex mix of vindication and heartbreak. For years, Zach has argued that Matt manipulates narratives to suit his own ego. He was villainized by a portion of the fan base for refusing to negotiate on Matt's terms regarding the farm. Now, Zach allegedly feels that his instincts were protecting his family from a man capable of unfathomable duality. If Matt could ignore Sarah Jenkins for 45 years, Zach realizes that his own estrangement from the farm wasn't a business decision. It was just another disposable relationship to Matt. Friends of the couple say Zach is done. He has reportedly told Tori that he wants no part of the inheritance if it means fighting a secret sister he never knew existed. He is stepping back, choosing to focus on his own 3 children, ensuring that the cycle of secrets ends with his generation. Jeremy and Audrey, on the other hand, are reportedly facing a crisis of brand identity. Their entire post-show career is built on the concept of intentional family and beating 50% of divorce statistics. They preach honesty, legacy, and covenant. To have the patriarch of their lineage exposed as living a double life strikes at the heart of their message. We are hearing that Jeremy is spiraling, questioning the very foundations of the lessons his father taught him about manhood and responsibility. Was the Roloff work ethic just a distraction from the guilt? Was the drive to build the farm an attempt to bury the past under piles of dirt and pumpkin attractions? Jeremy has reportedly reached out to Sarah through intermediaries, not to fight her, but to apologize. This breaks the united front Matt was hoping to maintain. Jeremy's potential acceptance of Sarah is the ultimate rebellion against Matt's control. And then there is Jacob, the youngest son, who has always been the most critical of the show's artifice, is reportedly not surprised at all. Sources say Jacob's reaction was a cynical, "I told you so." He has long maintained that the version of the family presented on TV was a fabrication. For Jacob, this is just the final nail in the coffin of the TV family myth. However, even he is shaken by the cruelty of the specific details. The idea that his father knew and simply chose money and image over a human life. Molly, usually the diplomat living a quiet life in Spokane, is said to be devastated for her mother. She is the one maintaining the closest contact with Amy, trying to help her navigate the retroactive humiliation of realizing her entire marriage was shared with a ghost. This brings us to the most explosive piece of evidence that has just surfaced, the diner tape. According to legal insiders involved in the upcoming hearings, there is an audio recording of a meeting that took place 3 months ago, shortly before the story went public. Matt, realizing the DNA test was going to come out, reportedly agreed to meet Sarah Jenkins in person at a roadside diner off the interstate, away from the cameras and away from the farm. He thought he was going there to negotiate a settlement. He didn't know Sarah was recording the conversation for her own protection. The contents of this tape, which we have received a partial transcript of, are chilling. In the recording, Matt does not sound like the bumbling, well-meaning grandfather we see on TLC. He sounds like a ruthlessly pragmatic CEO. When Sarah asks him simply, why did you ever call? Why didn't you want to know me? Matt's alleged response is shocking. He tells her, I had a plan, the farm, the show, the family. It was a delicate ecosystem. If I had brought you in, the network would have spun it, Amy would have left 20 years ago, and everything I built would have collapsed. I did this to protect the empire. Let that sink in. He didn't say he was scared. He didn't say he was ashamed. He said he did it to protect the empire. He referred to his family, his children, and his life's work as a business arrangement that couldn't tolerate the introduction of a variable like a firstborn daughter. When Sarah presses him, crying, saying she didn't want the money, she just wanted a father, Matt reportedly snaps. The audio captures him saying, "You have the money now. You have the checks I sent your mother. You want a father? I'm not a father. I'm a producer. And you are threatening the production." This tape is the smoking gun that destroys any hope of a sympathy defense. It paints Matt as a man who views human relationships as transactional. It validates every fear Amy ever had and every grievance the boys have aired in recent years. It reveals that the little people, big world we watched was, in Matt's mind, a production to be managed, not a life to be lived. When this tape is played in court or leaked to the press in its entirety, it will be the end of Matt Roloff's public life. The fallout has also dragged Caryn Chandler into the center of the investigation. For years, fans have speculated about how much influence Caryn has over Matt. Now, the question is legal. What did Caryn know, and when did she know it? If Caryn was aware of the secret payments to Sarah's mother and helped Matt facilitate them during the years she worked as the farm manager, she could be named as a co-conspirator in the fraud case. She could be liable for aiding in the concealment of assets from the divorce settlement with Amy. Sources say Caryn is terrified. She is reportedly consulting her own legal team, separate from Matt's, which is a massive red flag. If Caryn flips on Matt to save herself, if she testifies that Matt explicitly told her to hide files or cook the books to keep Sarah secret, then Matt is completely alone. The relationship that cost him his marriage to Amy might now cost him his freedom. As we look toward the legal showdown in late October 2025, the fate of Roloff Farms hangs in the balance. The big house, the dream home Matt is currently building or has recently finished, sits on a foundation of sand. If the court rules in Sarah's favor regarding the inheritance and the fraud, Matt could be forced to liquidate everything to pay the damages. Imagine the irony. The farm that he refused to sell to his own sons because they couldn't meet his price might be sold at a court-ordered auction to pay the daughter he refused to acknowledge. The castle stands empty, a monument to a legacy that never really existed. The viewers are left with a heavy realization. We spent years picking sides, Team Matt or Team Amy. We debated whether Jeremy was lazy or Matt was too demanding. We argued about pumpkin season prices and wedding venues. But all along, we were watching a man perform a high-wire act over a pit of lies. The tension we felt on screen wasn't just editorial manipulation. It was the tension of a man living in constant fear that his past was catching up with him. Sarah Jenkins, the nurse from the neighboring state, never wanted to destroy the Roloffs. She wanted the truth. But in getting the truth, she has inadvertently shattered the glass house they lived in. The show is over, the family is broken, and Matt Roloff, the man who wanted to be remembered as a visionary who overcame the odds, will instead be remembered as the architect of his own isolation. So, where do we go from here? The court date is set for next week. We expect the DNA evidence to be formally entered into the record, and we anticipate the release of the full diner tape shortly after. When that happens, there will be no spinning the narrative. There will be no confessionals to explain it away. There will only be the silence of a farm that lost its soul. Does this change how you view the early seasons? Do you think Caryn knew? And most importantly, do you think Matt deserves forgiveness, or has he gone too far? This is the end of an era and the beginning of a reckoning. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on, because as soon as the judge bangs that gavel, we will live with the verdict. The story of Little People, Big World is ending, not with a sunset over the hills, but with a spotlight on the truth. Stay tuned. The gavel has finally fallen in the Washington County Circuit Court, and the echo is deafening. What began as an internet rumor and spiraled into a family tragedy has now concluded with a verdict that has obliterated the Roloff legacy once and for all. We have been tracking the secret daughter scandal since the first whispers of DNA evidence emerged, but nothing could have prepared us for the brutal reality of the past week. We now have the full details of the trial, the shocking betrayal on the witness stand that sealed Matt Roloff's fate, and the final heartbreaking destiny of Roloff Farms. If you thought the diner tape was the end of the story, you were wrong. The courtroom drama made the reality show look like a rehearsal. The trial began on October 31st, a date dripping with irony as it marked the height of what used to be the farm's celebrated pumpkin season. Instead of greeting fans at the gates, Matt Roloff walked into the courthouse alone. Observers noted that for the first time in decades, there were no cameras from TLC. The network had officially severed ties 48 hours prior, issuing a brief statement that they were monitoring the legal situation and had ceased all production. Matt looked frail, a shadow of the tycoon we watched for 25 seasons, but the real shock was who wasn't with him. Caryn Chandler was not by his side. She was already inside the building, seated not with the defense but waiting in the witness holding area. The proceedings moved with terrifying speed. Sarah Jenkins' legal team presented the DNA evidence, which was accepted without challenge. The 99.9% match was read into the record, establishing Sarah irrevocably as Matt's biological child. But the civil suit for retroactive support and the fraud claim hinged on proving that Matt knowingly lied. This is where Amy Roloff took the stand. In a courtroom pin drop moment, Amy confirmed the authenticity of the letter Chris Mark had found. She testified through tears that she had confronted Matt in 1982 about the pregnancy rumors, and he had sworn on the Bible that it was a fabrication. Her testimony painted Matt not just as a negligent father, but as a master manipulator who made his wife feel crazy for suspecting the truth. Amy's testimony was the emotional nail in the coffin, but the legal nail came from Caryn. In a twist that no one saw coming, Caryn Chandler turned state's evidence. Facing potential liability for aiding in financial concealment during her tenure as farm manager, Caryn cut a deal. On the stand, she admitted that during the divorce proceedings between Matt and Amy, she was instructed by Matt to categorize certain monthly outgoing payments as consulting fees or miscellaneous farm expenses. Those payments, she revealed, were wire transfers to an account linked to Sarah Jenkins' mother. Caryn's testimony destroyed Matt's defense that he had lost track of Sarah. It proved he was actively paying for silence while simultaneously pleading poverty to Amy and his sons during the divorce settlement. The look on Matt's face when Caryn pointed him out in the courtroom was described by sketch artists as utter devastation. The woman he had chosen over his family had just chosen her own survival over him. The verdict was swift. The judge found Matt Roloff liable for paternity fraud and ruled that he had intentionally dissipated estate assets to avoid legitimate claims. While the criminal perjury charges are still being deliberated by the DA, the civil judgment was catastrophic. The court awarded Sarah Jenkins a settlement that includes retroactive child support with 40 years of interest plus a punitive damages award for emotional distress and fraud. The total sum is in the millions. It is a number that Matt Roloff, despite his TV fame, reportedly does not have in liquid cash. This brings us to the final tragic fate of the farm. To satisfy the judgment, the judge ordered the immediate liquidation of assets. The big house, the wedding barn, the castle, and the pirate ship, everything that made up the world of Little People, Big World, is currently being seized. There will be no passing the torch to Zach or Jeremy. There will be no purchase by Jacob. The assets are too toxic and the debt is too high. We have received confirmation that the property is scheduled for a public auction next month. Real estate insiders believe the land will be purchased by a commercial developer who has had eyes on the Helvetia area for years. The zoning applications have already been filed. The pumpkin patch will likely be paved over to make way for a generic housing subdivision or a strip mall. The legacy that Matt sacrificed his marriage and his relationship with his children to build will be bulldozed by strangers. The reaction from the Roloff children has been silence, which speaks louder than any Instagram post. Sources say Zach and Jeremy visited the farm one last time before the locks were changed by the court-appointed receiver. They reportedly walked the property without Matt, saying goodbye to their childhood home, knowing that their father's greed was the reason they lost it. Sarah Jenkins, true to her word, has announced she will donate a portion of the settlement to charities supporting children in the foster system. She released a statement saying, "I never wanted the farm. I just wanted the truth. The farm was built on a lie, and lies cannot stand." As the dust settles, Matt Roloff is left in a position of profound isolation. Reports indicate he is currently staying in a rental property in Arizona, completely estranged from his children and his former partner, Caryn. The tragic irony is Shakespearean. Matt spent his life terrified of losing control of the narrative, control of the farm, control of his family. In his desperate attempt to grip it all too tightly, he crushed it. The empire has fallen, the show is canceled, the farm is sad, and the secret daughter he tried to hide is the only one walking away with a clean conscience. This is the end of our coverage of the Roloff saga. It is a sobering reminder that reality TV is often just a polished veneer over a much darker reality. The cameras have stopped rolling and the lights have gone out on Roloff Farms. If you have followed this story with us from the beginning, thank you for watching. If you think justice was served, or if you feel pity for a man who lost his way, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the reality stars who think they can hide the truth. Goodbye, and stay skeptical.